Hi everyone, I'm so glad you're here. This short session is all about how to use my newest children's picture book, Finding Common Ground, as a springboard for conversations around inclusion and belonging, especially in an outdoor classroom setting. Whether you're a classroom teacher, librarian, homeschool parent, or someone working in community spaces with kids, my hope is that this book helps you create moments where all learners feel seen, valued, and connected to each other and to nature. So grab a notebook if you'd like, and let's explore some simple, meaningful ways you can bring these ideas to life with your learners. I'm Lauren McLean, a primary teacher in the public school system in a small suburban town here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. I'm also an outdoor learning consultant, author, and the host of the Teach Outdoors podcast. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to support schools, districts, and educators across Turtle Island through workshops, professional development, and author visits, both in person and online. My passion is helping teachers take their curriculum and their students outside in ways that are meaningful, manageable, and inclusive. I'm also the author of a few books you might recognize, Me and My Sit Spot, which is a gentle introduction to mindfulness and observation in nature, Finding Common Ground, which we'll be exploring today, focused on inclusion and belonging in outdoor learning, and my newest book coming out soon is called Risky Play Gone Away, all about supporting safe risk-taking and confidence building through play. I've also written a professional resource for educators called Sitting with Nature, an educator's guide to sit spots, which provides practical tools for weaving nature routines into your teaching practice year-round. So as we read and reflect today, I encourage you to think about your own learners and context by asking, what kind of learners do I notice thriving outdoors? This session is really about recognizing that every child brings something unique, whether it's big energy, quiet wonder, fast movement, or slow, careful observation. All of it belongs, and our job as educators is to make space for each of those gifts to shine. So let's dig in. I wrote Finding Common Ground as both a parent and a teacher. As a parent, I understand how sensitive it can be when people make judgments about your child's energy, whether it's too much, too quiet, too fast, too slow. And as a teacher, I've always felt deeply that every child deserves to feel seen, valued, and celebrated for exactly who they are. Belonging in a classroom isn't a competition. There's no first place or last place. It's about making space for every learner to show up as themselves. And the beauty of learning outdoors is that it naturally offers this space. It's not a one-size-fits-all because we all fit outdoors. And through this book, I hope to encourage educators, caregivers, and communities to create outdoor experiences where students can recognize each other's gifts, build empathy, and grow a sense of true belonging. Because every child brings something meaningful, and nature gives us the perfect setting to notice, nurture, and celebrate that. And to quote the end of the book here, it says, each child's participation is unique and equally valuable. How do we ensure that the tall oak and the short dandelion get equal sunshine? We all grow at different rates. All right, so as I read the book out loud, again, I want you to consider how these two main characters, big energy, quiet energy, and how their relationship evolves throughout the story. So 2 prompts that I've put down here are, how do you see this reflected in your own class? And who are the learners who sometimes get missed? No matter how hard he tried, River could not keep up with Sage. She was brave and adventurous. She rushed to try new things. River was shy and nervous. He stuck to familiar things. They were both getting ready for a new adventure, beginning their journey at a brand new school. On the first day at their new school, Sage steamed ahead. River held back. The twisty twirlies in his stomach grew bigger and bigger. The teacher took them to visit their outdoor classroom. She shared a story about the fast-growing dandelion and the slow-growing oak tree. She asked, "Where do you see yourselves in nature?" Sage raced to explore every nook and cranny of the garden. She made friends while she investigated and found treasures. River stood still, rooted in place. He took a long, deep breath and quietly observed the beauty of nature. Every day, Sage rushed into action. Sometimes it landed her in sticky situations. Every day, River remembered to breathe. One autumn morning, their teacher invited them to observe the birds in the low-lying shrubs. Sage quickly ran over to the brambles to get a closer look, but her speed and noise scared the birds away. River found a quiet place to sit on the edge of a sidewalk and watch the birds coming and going. He made careful sketches of the birds in his nature journal. Sage's journal was empty. How could she ever draw the birds if she couldn't get close enough to see them? She walked over to River and quietly sat beside him. She told him how much she loved the details he was able to draw. River felt more twisty-twirlies in his stomach, but this time they were happy ones. Together, they watched the birds darting in and out of the bushes. River shared his observations and questions with her. "I think the birds trust us when we sit still. I wonder how we could build them a nest." She quickly jumped up, a sudden burst of inspiration striking her. She had an idea. River smiled his biggest twisty-twirly smile. He noticed how she was just like the dandelion, fast and lively. He was just like the oak tree, thoughtful and patient. Let's gather in circle to share our reflections. How did you and your friends help each other? Did working together help you find things in common with one another? She helped me build. He helped me slow down. As time passed, Sage and River's experiences in the outdoor classroom began to weave together. She grew more comfortable with quiet observation, while River's confidence to explore began to shine through. River watched as Sage hurried off to play in the forest. He walked along carefully, no longer feeling like he had to keep up. So now that we've finished the read aloud, I want to invite you to take a moment to reflect on how this book might spark deeper conversations or intentional practices in your own setting, whether that's a classroom, homeschool, community program, or even your own family routines outdoors. So a few guiding questions to consider are: how do we support both extroverted and introverted learners in shared spaces? Because every child shows up differently, and outdoors we often get a very clear picture of who they are and how they engage. So are we creating space for both loud voices and quiet wonder to be valued? Second, what does inclusion look like when we're outside? I think it's really easy to think nature is automatically inclusive, but we need to intentionally design outdoor learning that welcomes all abilities, cultures, communication styles, and personalities. Third is, what role does nature play in helping students regulate and relate to each other? We know that time in nature helps many students reset, focus, and connect. So how can we build on that natural regulation to support stronger relationships and a sense of belonging among students? So again, feel free to pause here and jot down some thoughts, or better yet, if you're around a colleague, you can have a conversation with them. I think the more we reflect together, the more inclusive and intentional our outdoor spaces can become. So now let's shift our focus to our learners. Again, after reading Finding Common Ground, we might want to dig in a little deeper with some reflective questions that will open up some really good conversations. So again, here's a few prompts you can use that work well in whole group discussions or small groups or journal reflections or even one-on-one chats. So which character do you relate to more and why? What helps you feel calm and focused when you're outside? What kinds of activities do you enjoy outdoors? Are there any that you don't enjoy? How can we make sure everyone feels included when we're learning and playing outside? Have you ever felt like your voice wasn't heard? What helped or what would have helped? Can you think of a time when you found something in common with someone that's really different from you? Again, these type of questions help learners reflect on their own preferences, their perspectives, and relationships in outdoor spaces. And just like the book reminds us, is that every learner brings something valuable. And by having these type of guided conversations, we help students recognize that not only their own needs, but also the strengths and experiences of their friends and classmates. Again, after we read the book, we can invite our students to use a Venn diagram like this to compare two main characters. And we can guide them by asking, what does each character need in order to feel safe, seen, and successful outside? Or what do they prefer when it comes to outdoor learning? Quiet spaces or high energy activities, working alone or working with others. Now, once the diagram is filled out, then we're going to draw our attention to that overlap, because that's our common ground. And this is the powerful way to help students see that even when people are different, there's often a shared place where connection is possible. So for instance, maybe one character prefers running games and the other one likes really peaceful nature walks, but both enjoy being outside in the fresh air, or both like having choices. And then that shared part is what we can build on when we're designing inclusive learning activities. You can also extend this by having students do their own Venn diagrams, maybe just with one friend, and they're comparing their outdoor preferences and seeing where they overlap. Another one of my favorite ways to extend finding common ground is through a sit spot and character reflection activity. So after reading the book, we'll take our students outside for a short sit spot. Invite them to quietly notice how they feel in that moment. You might ask, are you feeling more like big energy or quiet energy today? And this is a really great entry point into talking about emotional awareness in a nature or land-based way. Now, depending on your school's SEL approach, you can tie in vocabulary that's already familiar to your learners. Maybe you use the mood meter from Ruler. So you can say, are you in the red, yellow, blue, or green zone right now? What kind of energy do you feel in your body? Or maybe your school uses zones of regulation. Again, connect it to color and energy levels. Am I feeling in the fast-moving green zone today, or am I more in the quiet blue zone? And if your learners know words like calm and excited or frustrated and peaceful, you can provide them with a word bank and let them circle or write ones that match how they feel. This reflection can become a daily or a weekly rhythm that blends self-awareness, emotional vocabulary, and time spent in nature. And you can even add this to their nature journals over time and watch how their self-awareness grows across the seasons. So another fun way is to use those nature journals. So we might give our learners some time to draw or write where they feel most like themselves outdoors. I might ask, where do you go when you want to feel calm? What are you doing when you feel your best outside? Some students might sketch themselves sitting under a favorite tree or building forts with friends or digging in the mud, running in open spaces. It's a really simple reflection, but it helps them identify their own sensory and emotional preferences. And then it helps us as educators better support those needs. It's really a great SEL and self-regulation check-in that's kind of disguised as a nature activity. We can also do some partner activities. This one is all about empathy and collaboration. So we'll pair students with different energy styles, fast mover, quiet observer, and give them a shared task. You could also have them go on a nature scavenger hunt together where one notices textures or colors, and then the other partner is keeping track of the time or mapping the route that they take. You could also have them co-create a nature-inspired poem, so alternating lines based on what each one of them observes or feels. And I think these kind of partnership games help learners appreciate how others experience the world, and they often really lead to some beautiful surprises. The last one here is SEL Circle Time prompts, because the book is really filled with some wonderful lines that can spark deeper conversations. So take one of the lines from the book, pose it as a question, like the teacher did during circle time, how they found common ground, or how they made space for someone else in the outdoor classroom. So you can use these prompts in journaling or in drawing, or maybe even in role play scenarios. The lines in the book can really open up doors to some powerful conversations about inclusion and empathy, both indoors and outdoors. And these activities go really so much further than just simple literacy skills, because we're building all these social emotional awareness skills, we're nurturing peer connections, and of course, deepening the student's relationship with the land. So before we wrap up, I want to share this little bonus that I created for you. It's a little mini teaching guide that I put together to go along with Finding Common Ground. It has some lesson ideas, reflection prompts, and some UDL considerations so that you can adapt the book and activities for a really wide range of learners. On the first page here, you'll see a quick overview of the book, some main themes, and how you might introduce it in your own setting. Here are a couple more sneak peeks of the resource. Again, whether you're an educator or a parent, a caregiver, this resource is designed to help you get the most out of the book and create meaningful experiences in your outdoor classroom, in your learning play space. The nice thing is that it's completely free. So I've included a link in the YouTube description below where you can download the resource from a Google Drive folder anytime. Feel free to share it with your colleagues in your community. I'd love to hear how it works out in your space. Now, before we finish up, I do want to invite you to take a moment again to reflect. What would be one small way that you can help all your learners find common ground this week? It could be something as simple as noticing a different kind of learner outdoors, or making space for quiet and big energy alike during your next activity. So thank you so much for joining me today and spending this time exploring Finding Common Ground and ways to make outdoor learning more inclusive and welcoming for everyone. If you want to get your own copy of Finding Common Ground, again, I'll share a link down below where you can purchase it. Also, if you're interested in author visits, virtual or in person, or professional development sessions for your school or district, I'd love to connect and work with you. You can stay connected with me through my email list, or you can follow along on Instagram at teachoutdoors.ca. You can listen to the Teach Outdoors podcast for more ideas and inspiration from other educators. There's some great interview podcasts on there. So thank you again, and I hope you have a wonderful week helping all your learners find their common ground outdoors. Bye.